Hey, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Brown Jet. I'm here with one of my friends today who I've recently onboarded into crypto. I'd love for him to share his experience with you. And I actually want to use this as a bit of a launching pad to show you the benefits of Infinex and why I think it's a very good tool. So, Shakes, you want to introduce yourself?
No doubt. So, Shags is my name, what I go, my claim to fame. I'm the dark fellow on the Web3, and I like to call myself a new Web3 thug, if you will. Basically, a brash take to the underground grind when it comes to investing in crypto with my mentor, showing me the ropes, but then doing it myself.
Okay. So just some background for people. Last summer, we were in Vegas for a friend's bachelor party. Pretty much everyone was excited to hear about crypto and invest because crypto was doing well, which is typically the sentiment I see when things are going great. People are like, how do I get in? And Shakes was the only one who actually took me up on learning about this. So we were in Tuscany for a wedding, and basically during some downtime, he was like, all right, how do I get started? Now, did you touch crypto before that? I know you invested in stocks. What was your experience with crypto like?
My experience with crypto was basically non-existent. So I was very interested in it. I worked with some people, like I knew about like treasures and ledgers and all that stuff, right? Helping people get not on chain, just on board with investing because they were already doing it. And then I had a lot of friends that used to mine crypto, right? So like Caspa, Ethereum, right? So basically it was just an observer, not actually doing anything.
All right. Yeah, because like one of the things we talked about was the cryptos that you want to buy. Mm-hmm. And I think something that I remember you mentioned was, you heard of these platforms like Coinbase and some of these centralized exchanges, but the coins that I was telling you to buy, you were like, how do I buy that, right? We talked about virtuals, we talked about Hyperliquid, and it was sort of like, can I buy that on Coinbase? And I remember we got you set up on a centralized exchange, right? I think we signed you up with XT, which is one of the exchanges. Yep. And eventually I wanted you to get on chain. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what I told you when I got you on chain?
You told me a lot of things when you got me on chain. I think mostly I remember is you yelling at me for, why aren't you on chain? And I think, so my approach to crypto, like my knowledge was basically, I just knew of Ethereum, I knew of Bitcoin, right? Solana a little bit, but mostly from listening to you talking about like NFTs and all the stuff that was going on. So it sounded really fun, right? And then once you set me up with XT, I was like, all right, cool. It allows me to buy the coins. And then I had like a bit of like FOMO, or not FOMO, like remorse for not getting into this once I looked at the charts and seeing how crypto was cheaper before and like the volatility and like the max price. Is like, man, this is crazy. But I still looked at it as an investor, right? I'm buying a coin or a token, right? And I wait for it to get to grow in value. And then I come from like a long-term investing background, also invest in real estate. So I think long-term, and I had to get used to the idea of volatility being the new norm, right? And I take calculated risk. So it wasn't too much, but it's just such a new area for me to go into. But then after I let it sit for a while, right? Seeing, I think Ethereum went up, and then with the US, the economics in the world, it dropped considerably. I was like, oh man, this is a good time to buy more. So I did that. And I was just living in that world till you hit me again with, dude, yeah, that's cool and all, but you need to get on chain. So then I was like, all right, I've had enough sitting back. Let me see what's good. And then it became really fun for me. So I can't remember what you told me once I got on chain. I just remember telling you that, holy crap, I haven't been this into a new like investment like mindset since I started my first business. So yeah.
To refresh your memory, right? We were flying to like Greece. The Japanese carry trade just happened. I remember all the things I showed you were down like 30% since I showed you, right? Like Ethereum was 2,200 in August, mm-hmm. early August of 24. And yeah, like you're right. Like it was very easy for you to buy things on XT, right? We were like doing that, in between going to dinners and drinks and stuff like that. But then when you got home, I sort of told you about Rabby Wallet and sort of talked to you about how to actually get set up on chain.
Yes.
Did you find that stuff overwhelming? Like all those things I was throwing out at you?
No. Well, and I'll tell you why, because I come from I'm like an IT, I'm like a fractional CIO, right? So I'm used to saying a lot of things that people don't understand, but like my job is to be able to translate that. So I just knew it was a matter of time. If I heard it enough, I was going to start getting it as long as there was genuine interest. Money involved, yes. Now, what I really got in. So my big, I think, hang up in the past was I was really worried about security, because in the back of my mind, I'm hearing, oh, well, someone plugged his wallet in here and did this and they lost all their money, right, by accident. So I was pretty cognizant of that. So XT was kind of like a safe entry point. But then you introduced me to the Tangent wallet, right? And you also told me that because of your media personality, your online persona, right, you're getting a lot of attention, and like these companies are actually asking you. I think Tangent, they asked you to like rate their product, right? Yeah. So like that's how I slowly started to get more of what you were saying. But like it was more. Then I realized, the switch flipped. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna have to get my hands dirty and risk my fear of getting ripped off somehow, right? And just get into it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you even told me like recently that you accidentally signed something that said one soul to the wrong person. I remember you texted me in the middle of the night here, and you're like, "Where did this go?" And I'm like, "How did you send this one soul to someone?" Right?
On I think it was like Jupiter or something. I was trying to swap Solana, right, or bridge Solana. Yeah. You know what? It was cool because with that experience, this is the one thing. So I remember one of the things I do too is like, it's my job to kind of, especially in tech, there are things with big companies, right, when we're the mindset of like that scarcity mindset. So what you think is expensive, not that expensive. And I remember you telling me, you're like, yo man, it's just $196. Who cares, right? You didn't lose your whole wallet. Let's keep working. I was like, huh. But the way my mind works, one piece of mind was, remember, I was able to figure out on my own, right, the transaction logs, right? Remember, and I sent you, right, the wallet addresses. I'm like, oh shoot. So whoever I sent it to, right, sent it to this other wallet, and I saw all these, this line of transactions in that person, like the third jump Solana wallet.
The paper trail.
It was all incremental, like one Solana through, and I was like, holy shit. I was set up, right? But I could trace it, so that was cool. So I was like, all right, you know what? Now I know I got to really watch what I'm doing, look at the URLs. But it's no different than me, teaching a customer how to like protect themselves from like phishing scams or data security, all that stuff. All the stuff that people think are annoying will actually save their wallet, right? No different.
Yeah, and I think that's actually why I want to ask you this question, because I was very like adamant with you in January when I told you to get Rabby, and I helped you first get Virtuals token right back then. And the idea was, do not go to any website that I did not give you without asking me, right? That was something I was very clear on. But for the audience, I want them to understand there's a bit of responsibility you feel when you basically get somebody to move out of their comfort zone, move out of like centralized exchanges or like, a stock exchange or whatever program you use, whether it's Robinhood or Weu or Coinbase. And then they're in sort of the wild, wild west where, like, for example, overnight, he had loaded a phishing transaction and then thought that when he went to Jupiter to do the swap, that transaction was already loaded and he had accepted that one. And that's what caused the issue. Now, here's the thing. The biggest problem that a lot of my friends face is, yes, you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy Ethereum. Everyone knows that. Like even like normies pretty much know it, and they have a platform where they have access to it. But if you want to make real money, you want to get tokens before they get listed on centralized exchanges. By the time they get listed, literally most of the opportunity is gone unless it's a legacy token, right? So something like Pepe, you were never going to get it for under $1 billion on a centralized exchange, right? Like people got it for millions in market cap. Now I believe, what is it, like 8 or 10 billion? And around that price was where Coinbase decided to list it finally. So when my friends are asking me, hey, I want to buy stuff, I'm interested, most of the time they always say to me, hey, can I just give you the money and you buy it for me? And I want nothing to do with managing anyone's investment, right? Like that's one of the hardest things. Yeah. But with that comes safety being a huge issue, right? Because people are now responsible for self-custody. There's a lot of confusion because there's a million different things that are going on. On chain, you need time, you need experience to get comfortable with it. It's not something that happens on day 2. You have to constantly be in there. You're going to make mistakes. And the idea here is to minimize the mistakes, minimize the losses when you do it, get the comfort, become an expert. And this is actually why I think Infinex is a very good teaching tool. And I think it's a very good intermediary to take somebody who's used to the control you have on a centralized exchange and get them comfortable with on-chain and they see the benefit. So let me sort of walk you through some of it. I know you mentioned before that you've already sort of signed up and you have a wallet, but you haven't gone through it. Let me sort of show you some examples. So what I want you to think about for Infinex is imagine it is like your Rabbit wallet, or imagine actually it's like your Coinbase account.
Okay.
Right? So at the top of the screen, if we scroll to the right, you can actually go to deposit. And when you go to deposit, you have different options. You have your Ethereum address, you click on this and you see all the chains that are supported. By the way, they continue to add more chains every so often. I think the ultimate goal is to have a one-stop shop where you have access to pretty much every single token, right? One of the things I'm looking forward to is a sort of hyper EVM integration where we can finally get Hyperliquid in here, right? How many of our friends are unable to buy Hyperliquid because they just don't get on chain, right? You know, Arun asked you, Matt asked you, I have so many people asking me how to do it, right?
Well, actually,
that
gives me like a newbie question, because you asked me something earlier, right? Because you
Yeah.
told me about Hype a long time ago, right? And there's Hype on XT, so I can buy the token there. But it's not like buying Hyperliquid at the actual site like we did. So what's the difference?
So if it's the same contract address, it's the same. The only difference is when you're on chain, you can get sort of the rewards attached to your wallet. Whereas if, for example, you hold a token on the exchange, if there is any sort of airdrop or any sort of reward, the exchange gets it. They're like, thank you so much, we'll take it, right?
I remember you that. I was like, beat that. I'm like, no, now I understand. And I can stake it right at the exchange. Yeah, it was perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And by the way, over here, right, we have our EVM address, which is where you deposit. So you can go from Coinbase or whatever wallet you have. And as long as it's a supported network, which are listed right down here,
of course,
you can deposit, right? If you deposit something that's not there, you'll likely have to wait until it's supported to be able to access it, because it still works the way EVM does.
Does this mean I can deposit right from XT into here?
As long as you withdraw. So like if you have XT, you have an asset there, let's say you have, I don't know, USDC on Arbitrum, you can withdraw that and just make sure you pick the Arbitrum network. And I say all this, but at the end of the day, all the EVMs use the same wallet address anyways, but just make sure it's supported here and you're sending it from the right chain on XT, right?
Yeah.
So that's, so deposits here. But the reason I love this is this is your sort of sandbox. And I give you this one site and you don't leave it. You can do everything in here, right? So if, for example, you go to your portfolio, you can see what you have in here. So any NFTs, right? So any supported NFTs on those chains, any tokens you have here, right? You can see here, there's a vault that is coming soon where you can basically sort of deposit money and everything else here, right? Your Infinex vault, basically, you know, more control, transparency, whatever. The beauty is this. So you've used Jumper Exchange, right? I've shown you how to use it. Imagine Switch. So you click on Switch, that means swap and bridge. You can now in here do all your swapping within that wallet. You don't need to go anywhere else. It's all done in one spot. So if I wanted to, I can go and say, okay, look, let me just open this token. So I got USDC on base, right? I click on it. I go, all right, what do I want? I want Pepe on Ethereum. Great, I can do that. And I can hit max and it will literally find the best quotes that I can select from and do the trade. Whereas you'd have to go to another website to do this. So like I'm thinking about our friends who literally don't know anything about the space, giving them one website where you can do everything. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because like
you can do any token. In fact, you can put a contract address in and get this. The only concern I have, this is the one thing I would tell the Infinex team, is there's a big difference between Pepe on Ethereum and Pepe on Arbitrum. These are not the same token. And that's the one thing I would say, because somebody who's a beginner would not know that. And they may buy Pepe on Arbitrum and go, oh, I'm getting a way better deal, but they're not getting the right token. That's the one thing I would tell them. This is the feedback I'm going to give to the team myself. Hopefully that is sort of adjusted, fixed, whatever. You can also go to activity and see what you've done. So you can see here, by the way, I have been using this to make money. So for example, let's look over here. Earlier, what was it? Yeah, earlier today, 5:23 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. I was trading $10,000 into Pepe. I then traded that Pepe back into USDC, made a couple $100, did this again, and I just keep doing it. It's like really, really good way to make money in here, right? I also have the patron NFT. This allows me to basically have cheaper fees and everything as well while I use it. It is expensive, so I wouldn't recommend somebody who's getting started. You don't need it, but it's a very good sandbox. On top of that, all your airdrops, any sort of things that are connected will come here. So you don't have to go elsewhere to claim them, which is fantastic. You can go to earn.
Walk me through that part.
Yeah. So like, for example, there's an Infinex airdrop going to Kaido stakers.
Sure.
It's going to be dropped right here. So you connect your wallet and then boom, they're all going to come here.
Airdrops from Infinex, not anywhere else.
Yeah, but I believe in the future, the goal is to have it all in here anyways.
That's
because the idea, right, is you want your one-stop shop. You don't like, if I'm giving this platform to somebody, I don't want to give them this platform and a million other things. If I can give them one site that says, okay, just use this and you can do everything you ever need to do. You can hold any token you need to hold on to. You can trade it for whatever you want to do, right? And you have it. And the beauty is there's no seed phrase. You have your own passcode. So for me, it's a thumbprint.
Right.
So you can set it up. It's amazing.
Now remind me again. So remember when you first showed me, so I had Bitcoin. I was having trouble like exchanging or swapping it or bridging it, sorry. And same with Solana. So does that eliminate that challenge I had through this?
It does. However, I believe the Bitcoin chain doesn't exist the way we want. So here you just have Ethereum and Solana right now. However, you can sort of do switches, the swap and bridge to Bitcoin on Near. So if I look at Bitcoin, it's on the Near network. So it's not the technical Bitcoin that sort of we're used to, or you can get the wrapped Bitcoin right here as well, right? So you can do that. So it still allows you to hold the asset, so you're getting the appreciation, but it's not the official Bitcoin that you would get on the BTC chain, right? But that's fine. Does it make sense? And obviously this is a work in progress. The team is taking feedback and they keep developing, right?
Now, another question for you. So is this the first of its kind?
I believe so. There was a similar app or another app that tried to do something similar. I won't talk bad about them. They just did their airdrop campaign a few days ago. And let me just tell you, I think they did a horrible job. And I think it really the reality is the other program, I felt like I had to force myself to use it. Whereas this one is so easy to use because they make it very simple. They make it so much more integrated. Right. So I'm not sitting there having to sign transactions. I just have to like put my thumbprint in every time I want to do a transaction. When I withdraw, I use my, I have two-factor authentication set up. So I put in a code to withdraw, but that's it, you know?
See, that's one of the, I think if there's one annoying thing that I have that actually, when you think about the amount of things you do when you're on chain, and like for me, I'm really only doing 3 things and like exploring new things that you tell me, right? The amount of time I've had to like put in my ledger code, holy shit, has added like hours onto my trading, right? Sometimes even with the thing that we did the other 2 days ago, the plasma, right? I guarantee you I'd have probably gotten it through if I had like 10 more seconds.
Exactly. And I have good news for that too in a second, but you see here, this is exactly what it is. It's a crypto app designed for humans, because the people who use on chain, you've got to be an expert, or like it feels that way. Whereas this is for normies, right? Effortless setup, non-custodial, easy recovery, multi-chain, and you get your wallet and your vault. And they're going to work on this thing called Infinex Connect, which right now, you go to a website, you go to Jumper or whatever, you then connect your Ravi wallet. You will be eventually able to connect your Infinex wallet to it.
Oh, wow.
So it will operate that way.
Wild.
That's what they're working on. This is incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't even need that, but it's the extra, it's going above and beyond. So like somebody who's in Infinex can continue to use it without just withdrawing everything to another wallet. You don't need to.
Got you.
This is your sandbox. You play in it. It's very safe. You can't lose your money because there's no phishing that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then you can connect it. And that's where it gets a little riskier, right? Because now you're connecting to other things. But that's more advanced. But it allows you to do that transition when you're ready.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, I think I have a profound appreciation for this because I come from tech, right? And it's kind of like a tech guy that grew up, with Windows like 95 or something, or like DOS, or like building computers and all that stuff. Loved Android because, you spend so much time configuring them because you're so used to doing that with your own machine, right? But when you're in tech, you're also doing that for other people, right? And then Apple comes along, and makes everything easy. So like the layman person can now get introduced to the same world and be like, oh, this is amazing. But like, you know what goes on behind it. I think that gives you a better appreciation for like this layer, what it's actually like saving like a normie, if that's what you call it, like someone new, like a newbie on chain.
Yeah, I mean, like part of your job, right? When you're in IT, a lot of it's change management, right? Trying to like, how many people get pissed off when you want to change the software they've been using for 10 years plus, right? And you have to show them that one is going to add value, save them time, and the effort it takes them to get used to learning something is going to pay off dividends. In this case, this is basically shortcutting and basically reducing the barrier from going from centralized exchange to on-chain, because it creates this really nice intermediary where they're still safe, they got all this stuff taken care of, and they never really have to go the one step further because it's all done here. If you then want to sit there and go in the trenches and do all these other things like minting NFTs, you can do that, but you're not forced to do it. Whereas before, it didn't matter what you were doing, you always had to go on chain if you wanted to get Pepe, right? You couldn't do it before. Like, obviously now you can on exchanges, but before you couldn't, right? So the last thing I'll show you, sorry?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like with change management, even still, velocity is a big thing. It can be your biggest enemy. You do it too fast, no adoption. And here, you actually need velocity, otherwise you're missing out on lots of opportunity, right? So yeah, this is gold. Okay.
And you know what? I'm actually gonna test this on Matt later too, because like he's not done it, right? But like he's also an IT guy, right? So if he's done these turnkey solutions or whatever he calls them, so we should.
Sales. He cuts the deals and then brings in guys like me to like bring it home. So.
Yeah, but he talks about turnkeys and stuff. Come on, he's got to know something.
Oh, you gotta be. Yeah, we call it. He's a wordsmith. I love it.
All right. Yes. Yeah, so basically the last thing here is like you can then get access to certain like earning campaigns. So like, for example, if you want Drift Soul, so like if you want extra yield, you can get access to that stuff within here. So they've integrated that stuff here too. So like 9% yield on Soul through End Soul, or if you want Drift Soul, right? Jupiter Soul's here too. There's a bunch of different earning campaigns. There's also a reward campaign area. Right now, there's only have one, but basically, once again, just more ways. And once again, it's just going a little bit further than most people need to, because I think most people, all they want to do is be able to buy and hold coins they like. And they want to be able to buy the coins that their friends talk to them about without making it overly complicated. That gets solved with Portfolio and Swidge.
Right.
Like, there's some extra stuff here. There's also a game that I don't really want to get into, but basically you just predict which tokens will basically do better on the day.
Right.
So like at the end of the day, the ones with the highest points win. I've only gotten 2 wins, which is okay, but you know, it's fun. It's fun, like, you know, you do it to like, you know, just have a competitive thing or whatever. But I think this entire platform is great. And the one last thing I didn't show you is when you're done, or if you ever want to send money, like let's say, okay, you owe someone $50, hit the send button. You can literally go put the address in, right? You can enter or select an address that you have, and then select the token, the NFT, whatever you want. Boom.
Good. You can even send NFTs. Wow. Okay.
Right?
Oh.
So it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. Like, I think this is a very cool solution, and you have your dashboard here too when you log in, right? So I think they're only going to add to this, and I think the most important thing for me is the simplicity and the ability to onboard, and then obviously all the potential things in the future like Infinex Connect, additional integration. I really hope they have Hyper EVM come on soon. I think that will be so massive, just because it allows normies to be able to buy Hyperliquid without waiting for an exchange listing. I know Binance US is looking to list Hyperliquid, but pretty much that's it. And everybody else is sitting there going like, how do I do it, right? So
this is where I want you to give me some serious props. How long did it take me to figure out Hyperliquid to buy it?
To be fair, I gave you a video to follow instruction. Didn't I give you? I gave you a video.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you did. Yeah, okay, you know what? Fine, I forgot about that. But hey, I can listen to instructions. I mean, you still have to follow.
Yeah, you can. And I give you credit because one of our other friends, I made that video for him 3 months ago, and he still hasn't gotten it.
Well, that's the thing. And oh, really? Well, again,
yeah.
It's the IT side of me, but also there's an added layer because I'm in a country that restricts a lot of things, right? So I had to figure out how to like VPN over and like do all that fun stuff, right? And you know what? It worked perfectly, and I'm still thankful. So
yeah,
thank you, Brown.
So tell me something. You now see this, and you have sort of been onboarded, right? So I think you're like moderate on chain, right? Like you don't need my help with virtuals or any of that stuff anymore. You know what's going on. for our friends or some of your friends or whatever that like maybe know a bit about crypto, do you see this being a useful tool after seeing what you see and going through what you've gone through?
Yes, and I'll validate it, because again, the Solana thing where I got gypped or fished or whatever you want to call it, right? I was nervous, like really nervous, like even using Jumper Exchange, right? And it took me a while to wrap my head around it, because I had to figure out the gas fees, like how, depending on what you're actually swapping or sending, right? You need to have Ethereum, right? And it takes a lot to figure out. And then, also looking at, fast transaction versus like a normal, right? And I never realized how much money you actually spend with these gas fees. So you got to really be cognizant of, right? You might think you made a certain amount, but you don't figure out how much gas you're spending, how much the transactions cost, all that stuff, right? And because they were in so many different apps, because there's Jupiter, right, for a different chain, right? There's just too much at once for me to grasp it. I can see someone saying, okay, I give up. I'm going to give you money, just do it for me, or I'm just not going to do it at all, right? Or I could think it's too easy to get ripped off, or, there's just so many things that can feed a scarcity mindset to just not do it. And then you just miss out, when really it's not as hard as you think, but you just need an easier entry point. And I think this is a perfect application for it, knowing what I know now.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because some of the best applications and the most adopted applications in crypto were like the Phantom wallet and Moonshot, because at least for Phantom, you didn't have your money in multiple places. Like you'd always have access to it, right? Sol, right? Whereas if you're on Ethereum, is it on Base? Is it on Arbitrum? Is it on Linea? No, I'm just kidding. No one uses Linea, but like a bunch of different chains, right? So
yeah, the Rad
you can hit a one-click button buy. People want that, right? Like Moonshot allows you to buy whatever token you want to buy. It's just listed. Oh, you want to put $50 in? You want to use your Apple Pay? Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the one other thing that would be nice to have here is a way to onboard your fiat, right? Like right now they don't have it, but imagine the future where you can actually, when you go to your portfolio, you can go, I want to buy some Bitcoin, and can I use a service to have it come here versus having to send.
Thanks for putting that, because I was going to ask you about that. So the the Mercurios, all of those, right? Do you foresee that being attached to a platform like this, where we could?
I think there might be some regulatory challenges that are way above my head, right? Like as you know, there's a lot of countries that are super against this, and the way they built this right now, there's nothing that would restrict them. So I don't know at what stage any implementation would do that. I leave it to them to figure out. But obviously, I'm sure there are smarter ways to do this. Okay, great. Even if you have Mercurio, you can link to these payment places that are off. But then when you onboard, right, they ask for a wallet address for it to go to, right? So you can give your Infinex wallet, for example, right?
Right. Okay.
Right. So anyways, thank you so much. Appreciate you, Shakes, for coming on. It's about 30 minutes. Guys, I hope you found this video very insightful. As always, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, see you later. Thanks again for watching.